Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how you can sew this beautiful summer blouse yourself. It gives me real Pinterest vibes and I think it's really cute and cozy. It is a little bit more revealing, I think, because you just tie it at the front with a bow, but I still feel really comfortable even if making the video was somehow cringe in public. But yes, it covers everything it's supposed to cover and I think it's perfect for summer and warm breezy days. So let's get straight into it. You need the sewing pattern. You can either download it for free from my website, or if you want to support me, you can buy it from my Etsy shop. On the website, you can select the language and then you get the instructions in the appropriate language. And on Etsy, all languages are included anyway. And you have to decide on a size. If you're not sure, you can check the dimensions here and then select the size you want to download. It'll take a short time for the files to be compressed. And yes, if you want, of course, you can follow me on Instagram if you haven't already done so. And you'll receive a zip file containing three different files. One is the layout plan, then we have the instructions, and of course, the pattern itself. Let's start with the instructions. It's a big PDF document that describes everything about the blouse, what material you need, what pattern pieces you need, how to cut them correctly, and so on and so forth. In other words, if you haven't made a pattern from me yet, please read it in full before starting. Then, of course, there's the pattern itself. At the beginning, there's an overview how you have to glue them together. So this is the overview. And then, of course, the different A4 sheets themselves. And here at the bottom, you also have a centimeter scale. And it's really important that this centimeters match in real life. So here for scale, you have to enter 100%. And to be sure, I would recommend you to print the third page, which is the first page of the real pattern, first before printing the whole pattern. And then with this test page, check the centimeter scale. And if it matches, then print the rest and glue everything together. And cut it out according to the layout plan, which is the third document. Here we have the folded edge. So I folded my fabric before cutting out the pieces. And depending on which size you sew, the arrangement is a little bit different. And I decided for such a lightweight linen fabric. It's a little bit see-through, but in the end it wasn't so the blouse itself is not that see-through, but here basically you can choose whatever fabric you like. Yeah. And then I already started cutting out the pieces. So here I folded it on the edge and I placed my pieces on the fold edge so that when I open it, then I have the whole back piece. But yeah, as I mentioned, everything described in the instruction as well. And here also remember to mark the notches. These are like little marks at the pattern so that later you can more easily insert, for example, the sleeve into the armhole, or for the darts also that you know where the darts start. And you need two straps for the ribbon. So I used 4 centimeter times 45 centimeters. And then we already start sewing the darts. So this is the dart on the back piece. The 3 marks are the end of the darts and the 2 bottom points. And I already ironed the middle. And then we have to sew the dart. And here we need a really nice and smooth curve. So we really want here no edges. I marked it here for you once again. So like a really smooth curve, more or less, as I also tried to show you on the pattern. But it's already a little bit hard to transfer it to the pattern. And this, by the way, is the beautiful side and the side that we sew on. So here is the wrong side. So the left side that should look to the inside. For my fabric, it doesn't really matter. When you start sewing the dart, then I didn't secure the stitch, so I didn't sew it back and forth, but I just started. At the end, I did the securing because I don't want to have the thread so bulky at the end of the dart. And then to secure it, I just made a knot. And then you can cut off the rest of the thread. And then I ironed it to the side so that everything is flat. And then on the right side, on the beautiful side, you have a nice dart for a better fit on the back. And then you have to do the second side as well. It should look like this. I ironed everything. Okay. And then we continue. And we also need to sew the darts for the front piece. It's basically the same thing. I marked the end of the dart, and then I marked with some tailor's chalk the dart that I want to sew. Really, again, a nice and flat curve so that we have no edges here at the end point of the dart. This is important. So again, we sew on top of the wrong side. So now the wrong side is facing you, which should be later inside. And I also already tried to do the first 2 or 3 stitches, like really parallel to the edge of the fabric, and then smoothly start so I don't have any edges. And here again I tied a knot, and I wanted to avoid fraying so that the fabric frays. So I used my overlock, but you can basically here also just, first I show you. So this is the dart. And then of course iron it again. And here before I used the serger to avoid fraying, but you can also just use a zigzag stitch on your normal machine. And here again for the serger to tidy up the end of the seam, I always put it through such a bigger needle and then pull it through the seam that I've just sewn. So then the thread is hidden and it looks like a clean and nice finish. And this one you can just let it as it is, because we will cut it later anyways. Okay, so this is ironed now. It looks beautiful on the outside and on the inside. And these waves should be there. This is exactly why we made the dart, so that we have space for our breasts. And this we need to do the second time for the other side. And once we have done this and ironed everything, then we can attach the back part to the 2 front pieces. And we want to close the shoulder seam. So here the beautiful sides, the right sides face each other. And we closed the shoulder seam. So here I just pinned it and then sewed the 2 sides together, the 2 pieces. And here again, I used my serger. If you do not have one, you can just use your normal straight stitch from your sewing machine and then finish the edges with a zigzag stitch of your normal sewing machine. Yes, and you have the same result. Okay, this is how it should look now. And the next step is we overlock all this neckline until the end of the bust part. I use my overlock. Here you can also use a zigzag stitch, and as it's not really easy to sew corners, I made it with 2 or let's say 3 steps. So the neckline and then the lower part of the front piece. And here again, you need to hide this thread. Okay, this is our front piece now. And before we can continue with this one, we need to do our straps. Here you have different options. You can either fold it right side on right sides together and sew it. I always would recommend you ironing it first, then the sewing is way easier. And I first tried this option, but it didn't really work out for me. But I just wanted to show it to you here anyways, because maybe with your fabric of choice it'll work. So I had one 1.5 centimeters, so a little bit less than the 4 that I described, but with the 4 you can also do the other option. So yeah, you can always cut your fabric, but you cannot add something to it. So you have to sew the edge. You can, if you use a straight stitch, then you have to trim your seam allowance, and then you can either turn it with a loop turn, with a loop turner, I guess it's called, that you see laying here. Or my normal favorite method is use this bobby pin, cut a little notch in the fabric, and then with this bobby pin move the bobby pin through the hole that we've just created, and then pull the fabric gently. And then it normally always works for me. I have these little squares on my fabric and it always gets stuck there. So I use this method, which is folding both sides of the strap inside and then folding it again in half. Here I just sewed everything. So again, both sides to the middle. So to the middle, and then folding it again. And then I just top stitched everything from the beginning to the end. At the end of the parts, I did cut like a little triangle shape, more or less, so that I can hide the fabric inside my strap. Yes, and then I start sewing. I first sew the short edge and then the long one. Here I turn the strap so that I can sew the short one, as I said, and now just all the way down to the end. And here in the end, I think in the video I also tried to hide it inside, but I decided, so on one side I have this pretty finish, and on the other one I actually just used my overlock so that I do not have so much fabric inside my strap. And then we attach the strap to the blouse, and here we exactly want to place it in this little corner. So this, I marked it here on the pattern, and I used the end with the overlock, so not the pretty finish, and then we just attach it to the right side of the blouse. And yeah, I just used some stitches forth and back so that it's really secured to the blouse. And in the next step, we can finally do the neckline of our blouse. And first I iron everything. So the overlock seam should be folded inside to the left side, and the strap as well. And then I ironed everything. And once it is ironed, it really helps you when sewing. Then I just top stitched it from one strap to the other. Then we'll continue with the sleeve. So the left side is the front part and the right side the back part. You can also see it with the curve. And we have to hem the lower part and the upper part. And you should not forget to mark your notches first, because you can not forget it, but it can be made invisible by the serger. And then we start sewing with the longest stitch length that you have from the front mark, or from the mark at the front sleeve, all the way at the top over the shoulder notch to the notch at the back part. And we let the thread long so that you can pull on the top thread, I think it's called, and then you can you have this effect on your fabric that it's all kind of pulled together, which we want to have for our sleeve. And I marked where my front part is, so I used a blue pin to remind me that this is the front. And then I inserted here for this sleeve it's my right sleeve. So if you look at the blouse on the left side, and I want to, you need to flip it over and then attach it right side on right side. So again, the beautiful side that should be later on the outside should face each other. And then I pinned everything, and important here, the pin at the middle should really match the shoulder seam. So this one here, place it on top of your shoulder seam and pin it. And then distribute the rest of the fabric over the rest of the sleeve or the armhole. And then pin everything, and do the same for the back part. So pin everything and distribute the fabric. And then I top stitch everything. And before I do this, I always turn it and check if everything is correctly, if I like the little pleats or yes. And then I start sewing and sew the sleeve into the armhole. Okay, this is how it should look now. You have the excess or the thread. You can just cut it because your arm or your sleeve is now attached to the bodice. And before we can close the shoulder seam, we need to hem the edge, the bottom of the front part. So this is how it looks when it's hemmed with the overlock. Not hemmed, sorry, this is the wrong word. Just use the overlock or zigzag stitch. And now we want to close our side seam. So I flip it over at the armpit and place the two seams exactly on top of each other, and then pin the rest of the arm and also pin the rest of the bodice side seam. And then I sew everything. Okay, it already looks more or less like a sleeve now. We just have to insert the elastic, and therefore I turned it to the left side and I ironed the, I think more or less 1.5 centimeters. I'll show you in a second. It should be wide enough to fit your elastic. So I just put it inside and then ironed it, everything like this. If you want to have centimeters, I think, it's 2.3 centimeters more or less. And the elastic is 1.5 centimeters width, yes. And I had 27 centimeters. I'll just show you a table of the centimeter scale for the elastic, but you can also just try it on and check what feels nice on your arm and just go with the length that you want to have. And then I top stitched it all around, but you have to leave like a little gap open. Okay, here I have this gap, and there I'll insert the elastic, and therefore I pin 2 safety pins in my elastic, and then pull it with this secured safety pin through the tunnel at the sleeve, sorry. Okay, and once you have both elastics, I pulled on them so that I have a little bit more space for sewing, and then we just place the 2 ends on top of each other and sew them together. I used a zigzag stitch, and if you can use your jersey needle, then it'll be easier to sew on the elastic, but if not, I think I just also let my normal needle, it worked. So basically it just has to hold together and not open up. And if it's not really beautiful, then it doesn't really matter. And then just pull on your sleeve, and then the elastic will hide inside the tunnel. And then you just need to close the little gap that we've just had. And therefore, when you place it under your sewing machine, you need to pull gently on the fabric so that you can sew on a straight line and with a flat fabric. And this is, when doing the backstitch, a little bit complicated because you have to pull the fabric with one hand, but I think, yeah, you can manage. Okay, now your sleeve is ready. By the way, I used a black elastic. I would recommend using a white one if your blouse is white. But yeah, sleeve is ready. I like it. And then we have to do the same thing on the other side. Once you have done this, your blouse looks already really nice, but we need to add the peplum, I guess it's called, volant. And therefore also overlock or serge or use a zigzag stitch, whatever floats your boat, on the upper and lower half circle, more or less, for the two front pieces and also for the back piece. And then iron everything. First sew it. And then iron everything, and then place the two front pieces on one side of the back pieces, right side on right side, together, pin everything and sew it. Again, straight stitch and then zigzag stitch, or if you have a serger or overlock, then just do it with your serger. Perfect. Now iron the seam that we've just created, and also hem or do the zigzag stitch on both ends of this long fabric thing. Now we have to hem the peplum, and to do this we fold the seam allowance inwards. Iron it all firmly. This will definitely help you when hemming curves like this, if you iron it properly beforehand. And now we can sew it in place. And to do this, we start on the short side. We sew this short side in place. Here the corner I just ironed so that everything lays flat. And then we sew all the way to the very front. Then leave the needle in the fabric. Lift the foot. Turn the fabric, and then we can lower the foot again, and then we can sew the rest of the curve. And on the other side, we leave the needle in the fabric in the exact same way, lift the foot, turn the fabric, and finish the short side. Perfect. And the last step is now to connect both parts, and therefore flip it over so that the right side faces the right side. And pin everything together, and then we sew everything together. And you should, or the seams should exactly match up. So the two side seams of the bodice should match up with the side seams on your volant. Yes, and then once everything is pinned, just sew it. And again, I also check if everything is pinned correctly before I sew. Okay, and now the blouse is ready, more or less. I just ironed the seam here open so that the seam allowances lay flat. And then I added my label, which I think looks really nice. And then the blouse is finished. You can be really, really proud of yourself. I really like the look. If you like the video, I would be really happy if you give it a thumbs up, or also if you leave a comment. And of course, I'm always eager to see your results, so to see which fabric you have used. And if you have any questions, feel free to post it in the comments. Thank you for watching.